That's the
Oh,
after
good
show.
now.
After show is on Nicola's couch. I mean, I'm sure you guys have had really amazing experiences, throughout your career and time at some point. Is there a particular experience you guys have had in your career that you look at and you maybe pull hope from or motivation from, or you look at it and you like feel fondness for?
I can say when I came out as transgender, I was terrified, just because of like there not being many. So, and the terrifying thing of like transitioning while working and
Yeah.
basically becoming a whole other person. I can say that like my experience was nothing but positive. My shift was amazing from the day that I came out and going through the transition. Like they were nothing but supportive. They craved education, which I thought was really cool and made it super easy for me. So I know that that's probably not the similar experiences to a lot of people, but that was definitely it made the already hard transition, because it's a hard thing to do. It made it a lot easier, but it was terrifying at first. So it like restored my faith in our department that it's going to be okay. So
I would say a lot of people wanted education when you started transition because they came to me for questions too, right?
yeah,
Because they were like, so when does, and I'm like, I don't know. Like I gotta go to my subject expert. Like, so there was a lot of people that would come into me and being like, hey, so when somebody does this, like, and I'm just like, okay, like, and we would have those conversations because a lot of people wanted to be educated on, and not to offend you, right?
yeah,
Like, how do I not offend him and go through that? I'm like, keep using the word him, right?
yeah.
And
Great start.
Theo. That's a great start right there. So yeah, it was definitely interesting because I remember when you started to transition, so many people come to me with questions too.
Well, and it's so interesting because, right, like with, again, all all members of a marginalized community, I think that there's this experience of people coming and saying, what does your community think or feel about this? And you become like a spokesperson. And it's kind of like this both and, where it's like, I can both speak to my own experience and give you some insight. And also, like, the nenext person could have a totally different view, opinion, experience, feeling about it. And so, I mean, has there ever been like a particularly amusing experience that you've had where someone has come to you and maybe asked you something, and what you got was that this is a sincere attempt to learn and educate, but you're just kind of like, oh.
So I have one. So I was teaching the LGBTQ awareness to one of our recruit classes. The first time I taught it was very just, they just kind of stood there. They didn't embrace it. They just took the information in. The second time, the conversation went on forever. Okay. Like these people were they were getting educated and they were talking about it. So we were talking about transgender, and somebody asked, do we have transgender people in the department? And my answer was, we have 3 that are out as transgender. Yes, because that's how many I know that are out as transgender. And they were like, so wait, the person that asked this question said, wait, I'm confused. So do they just get like dressed up on the weekends and like do that just on the weekends and then come to work like their actual sex? And I'm like, see, and everybody in the room went, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, I've got him. It's okay. It's okay. And I was like, are you talking about a drag queen? He was like, I think I am. And I was like, okay. So those are people that get dressed up as a different gender and put on a show. And I was like, transgender is completely different. This is a thing that people go through for like years of just, that they don't just decide one day that this is something that I want. This is something that has been within them for years and years that I have struggled with. And like, but it was just so, the whole class just like thought it was, yeah. So we got through it. It was definitely an educational moment, but
You're like, there's so many things. There's so many things we could address in that question, but also, right. It's like that, I guess, I guess the word tolerance of the questions, you know, when we talk about education, right, it's kind of like this element of tolerance of that when people find they're brave and they ask the question, and we kind of know that if this is the first time they've ever asked anything like this, they're probably going to say it all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
And that's how they're learning. And so it, you know, using humor and kind of making offering some lightness in the education element can be helpful. But also it's, you know, again, so nuanced, right? Because there are individuals who participate in drag who are also trans. And it's like, okay, so how do we answer these questions? Again, like the burden of how do I get this right?
Yeah.
You can't speak for someone else's journey, because you're absolutely right. There are individuals that do drag that are trans, but maybe they started doing drag because they had that thought in their mind that something wasn't right, and they are trying to navigate through their own journey and try to figure out themselves. I can't speak on that. And we have this huge umbrella of LGBTQ plus that involves and encompasses so many different types of people that I may not agree with a certain part, but people want to come to me because it's part of my community. But it's that isn't part of me, or it's not part of my journey.
Have you guys ever been like, I don't know. Have you ever just like felt like been able to be like, honestly, I don't know. I don't know anything about that community. Like, I know everybody thinks that we're all like getting together and having potlucks, right? But like, we're not. And I just have, you know, like, I have absolutely minimal to nil ability to share and educate about like two-spirited individuals. So, okay. I that's all I can say is I encourage you to do your own research. Yes. But yeah, it's a very interesting phenomena, because I think we do still hold a sense of, I don't know, I guess when I'm asked questions, it's like, oh, it's an opportunity to teach someone. I wish I knew more.
I often use the I don't know.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
But if you think about like the cisgender straight world, I guess you could say, like the others besides us, like it is interesting that people think that we are getting together for potlucks and that we know about every other letter that's in our community, when, you know, a white person can't speak for a Black person's experience. An Asian person couldn't speak for that. A man can't speak for a woman's experience. Like, but you know, we're supposed to be the catch-all, know-all for everything.
So another thing that I would love to talk about a little bit is uniforms and gender expression. Let's talk about that.
There is no gender expression.
Well, but it's interesting, right? Because I think from my perspective, there are certain people with certain identities whose gender expression really matches like that uniformed look, right? Kind of like the more right, androgynous or agendered, but actually not really, right? I mean, first responder uniforms are fairly mask.
Yes.
Right, expressing. And so I'm just curious, like, what has been your experience with your gender identity, your gender expression, and then like the uniform that you put on every day, and how has that played into your experience? I mean, for you, Theo, right, you've transitioned from one gender identity to another.
So I've been lazy and haven't done it, but my class A, like my dress uniform, is fitted for when I was female, and I've had it altered and everything. But the thing that drives me crazy about it is that the buttons are for a female, so they're on the blouse side, whatever side buttons are on for a blouse. So when I get dressed up in it, I sometimes feel insecure that people are going to notice my buttons are on the other side instead of, I guess, the male side that they're supposed to be on. I've just been lazy. Unfortunately, our department, we have a tailor, like a company that does our tailoring and does our uniforms, but they're not available. And we would have to go usually in our off time down to where their office is and then get refitted. But then you run into the embarrassment kind of explaining why your buttons are on the other side and like having to deal with an uncomfortable situation with a tailor when, I'm not a cisgender man and like how those fittings would go. So I just haven't gotten down to do it. But that is one thing that drives me crazy.
Tell them they messed up.
Yeah. Like I never noticed the buttons were supposed to be on the other side.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Yeah, I would have never noticed.
So it's not everybody's uniforms. Like I guess it depends on your department. Some departments they're all uniform, but in our department there is a male jacket and a female jacket. Buttons are different.
All right. So we got to get those buttons
I
changed.
wonder if it's pinned different too. Like
What do
in
you
the
mean?
front, like so for breasts to be in the front, like the pins in the front to the
Oh,
extra.
yeah. I'm pretty sure my coat probably
it
has
too.
that, but I got it tailored so it's not as bad, but I don't have like the boob peaks coming out.
Right. Okay.
Mask uniform, boob peaks. Got it.
There we go.
How about for everyone else? Like, what's that been like? The uniform of it all.
I don't know. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you're like our department, you guys wear like those BDU pants, probably like t-shirts, I would imagine, as firefighters. Like our pants are you like there is a women's option. However, I think a lot of the women in the department actually prefer the men's fit just because it's a lot more comfortable, more functional. There are women that wear the women's cut. I don't mind wearing the men's cut. It is just, I think personally, like, just more comfortable and it's not as form fitting. And when I came to this unit off of patrol, we switched from like those little standard like polyester looking pants with a stripe down the side to just like plain BD like gray pants. And they gave me the option of like the women's and the men's cut. And like my LT told me like the women's cut's a little wonky, so try them both on and then kind of see how you feel. And you can send it back if you're not into it. I mean, they fit fine. They were just, I think, very form fitting. And I went to a Catholic school, so I'm used to like the uniform rules. Like you can't look a certain way because you don't want to, be under the male gaze. So therefore, like that's kind of how I'm trained. I'm like, I like them for me. Like I would wear them on an off day or like hiking or something like that. I probably wouldn't wear them around like a male dominated office space. So I went and regardless of sexuality, I just opted for the men's pair. Plus it's more comfortable that way. But yeah, I don't think we have the button thing. I think what I've noticed, I think all of our buttons for my department are all on the same side. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I learned something new today.
Now you're going to pay attention.
Now I am.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at it now.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, where are your buttons at?
Let me see about. Yeah, I'm with Jordan. So when I was getting fitted for my uniform, like they kept trying to push these women pants on me, right? And like I've got some girth in my hips, right? So they got up to like a size 22 before it fit my hips. And it didn't fit it the way. So I was like, can you just give me a men's 34? Like, I know that that's what fits because it's just more comfortable. That size has gone up a little bit, since I've been in the department. But I wear the men's pants because they're more comfortable. I do know that there are women in the department that buy their own pants that are a women's fit because the ones that we have are not good for us. It's not something that they think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Also,
Carly?
maternity pants. They don't do maternity pants.
I hadn't thought about that. See, that's a whole nother thing, right?
Yeah.
But I think like as far as like if you want to express I guess like if let's say you're a gay man who is more feminine than everybody else or whatever, we really don't allow for you to express who you are because of our strict uniform policy. Sorry, my dog's.
Yeah. Again, right. The uniform, the look is meant to be mask. It's meant to be that kind of classic, right? Like male energy, masculine energy.
Yeah.
And so you bring up a really good point.
I think we could definitely do a better job of having a more androgynous uniform. I don't know what that would look like or how you would go about that, but I think that all uniforms should just be androgynous.
What do you think, Carlos?
Yeah, I really don't have too much to say on this topic because I am more masculine. So I'm fine with the uniform as is. The only issues I have is how boxy I look in the pants because I am wider. So the wider I am, waist size, the legs are wide, because it's just straight cut, so it looks I look very awkward. I look like SpongeBob or, like just very square,
Well, and I think it matters because at the end of the day, I mean, we all, I think generally, universally have some concern with how we are appearing to the world. That's pretty normal. But then also when you factor in, being queer and having that be a really key piece of like your identity development, right? Like how you express to the world is more than just kind of like a mood for the day, a vibe. It's kind of like trying to solidly represent who we are in the world. And that can be kind of tricky, I think, to navigate, it sounds like. But, I think about my wife who has come a very long way in her process of kind of figuring out clothing and expression, particularly like her gender expression. She identifies as female, but she shops all male, like all the male departments, all that. She gets that stuff tailored and altered as needed. But it's, there is a level of comfort that is afforded to her by that clothing. And it represents kind of like you were talking about, Jordan, right? Like the way that the pants hug the body, and I think that can play into both who's around you, right? The male gaze,
Sure.
but also just this feeling in your skin of what feels right and what feels wrong.
Definitely. I also think there is the functionality aspect. Like some, like in general, not even uniforms, like women's clothing too. Like my wife dresses more feminine than I do, but like she complains about her own. I was like, well, you buy them, but like she complains about her own clothing. Like I know, like the pockets and like things being flowy or transparent in certain ways. I was like, I just don't deal with that because I don't buy stuff like that. But I will say, like, as far as like in the workplace, I'm like kind of the opposite. Like, I prefer not to express anything about myself, like because I don't know if it's the same. Obviously, like fire department differs a little. Typically, you guys are treating people that are not always cooperative, but might be a little more appreciative as opposed to like usually when I show up, someone's already pissed the minute I get there and they start hurling the insults. So like I prefer them not to know my sexual orientation. If they want to take a guess, they're free to do that. It's not very hard to tell. But then like it's just one more insult they start hurling at you. Like I usually don't even wear my wedding ring because it turns into like after wife, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And all this stuff. So the less I individualize myself and the more standardized I am on a call, makes me feel more comfortable because it's not a big deal. You have to have tough skin, obviously, in our profession. But I mean, going a night without that obviously is better than dealing with it, right? So whatever I can do to avoid it.
That makes a lot of
I think
sense.
one plus side, all of our uniforms, nobody looks absolutely awesome in them, in the ones that like our supply gives us. So it does give us like a sense of camaraderie that like we're all in the same uniform and we all look terrible in our boxy ass pants.
You all look like SpongeBob.
There's a lack of functionality also, being on the medic unit versus a fire engine. Like I need more pockets. So I buy BDUs.
Well, they bought those pants we got where the legs were this wide, and remember the EMS pants they gave us?
Yeah, in like 2007 that they never
Oh.
bought since. Yeah.
They were like 30 pounds.
Yeah, they were very heavy, like burlap. Yeah. I still have them actually. They don't fit though.
Burlap. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. It like so when my wife was in patrol, she bought her own like the BDU, like the functional pants, right? Because you need the pockets. You need all the pockets for all the things. And then when she transitioned into the detectives unit, she was like, she got hit with the wall of like, oh shit, this is the first time in my adult life I have to dress myself. Like pick my clothing, because she was in the military too. And so it was always being told what to wear. And then all of a sudden, and it's been a kind of a cool thing to watch her evolve in kind of playing with like patterns and fit, and it's just such an interesting thing to me to kind of be curious about in terms of how that all intersects. But thank you for sharing your experiences. I feel like there's probably so many more little nuances that we could get into about this. But for our time today, I just want to kind of ask if there's any other things that you would want to share before we officially wrap. Like, what was this like for you guys? Was this okay?
Oh, I
Yeah, I
loved
liked
it.
it.
I've never done anything like this before. It was great.
Oh, yay. Okay, cool. So maybe we'll get to talk to you guys again. Please let us know if you want to keep participating. Because I know me and Nicola are going to keep talking. We're going to keep doing that. And so we would love, I think, to
We
welcome. Yeah, love to welcome y'all in. Keep having the conversation.
All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You all have a
Bye.
good day and be safe.
You too.
You too.
Thanks, you too.